We tested the Surface Pro 11 in a range of apps, games, and also in daily use, and found many meaningful improvements over the Surface Pro 10. But we also experienced problems that any other Windows laptop for a fifth of the price wouldn't have. In this review, we hope to help make clear whether you should invest in the Surface Pro 11 or rather skip this generation. Featuring up to a Snapdragon X Elite processor, 32GB of RAM, and up to a 1TB SSD, the Surface Pro 11 promises great efficiency and good performance. It's one of, if not the best high-end office device out at the moment. But for some users, the Pro 11 might just be near unusable. Let's get into it. Qualcomm's Snapdragon chips have found their way into Windows tablets again, featuring either the Snapdragon X Plus or X Elite chips, up to 32GB of DDR5 RAM, and a removable M.2 SSD. Microsoft claims that the Surface Pro 11 will have record-breaking battery life and flagship performance to go with it. Let's see how their claims hold up in testing. We have the top-spec Snapdragon X Elite model with 32GB of RAM for testing, so these results won't apply to the X Plus edition of the Surface, obviously. And in Geekbench, the single and multi-core performance is much better than that of the Surface 10 Pro. The iGPU scores an impressive 19,400 points, which is also much better. However, these scores trail behind the new Intel Core Ultra 7 258V by about 15% in CPU single core and 10% in GPU scores respectively. We also tested the Qualcomm Adreno iGPU in 3D Mark, which can give us an idea of how this tablet performs in gaming. In Solar Bay, it's twice as good as the Pro 10, but still lower than the Acer Swift 14 AI, which we recently reviewed with one of the newest Intel chipsets. Generally, these scores are quite good for a modern machine, but aren't groundbreaking by any means. But it should, in theory, be more than enough to handle demanding tasks like video editing and light gaming. But here's the catch. As of filming this video, there is still no way to natively run many programs on the Surface 11. Premiere Pro, for example, runs on an emulation layer, which naturally hurts the performance and power efficiency of the Snapdragon chip. Also, plenty of games just refuse to boot or become stuttery and run worse due to lack of support. The battery life during gaming on this device is commendable, but games like Civilization 6, Fortnite, and League of Legends simply refuse to launch. We also found some strange stuttering issues in Counter-Strike 2, probably due to the emulation layer. So we would not recommend this laptop for gaming. Currently, Adobe has already released ARM64 versions of their Photoshop and Lightroom softwares. We are quite relieved to find that Photoshop runs smoothly and without issues, even when editing large raw images. Drawing with a Surface Pen also has almost no lag. However, not every company is able to crunch out a native ARM version of their Windows application so soon. Take the popular music production app Ableton Live 12, for example. Upon trying to launch the app, all we get is a simple message stating that our processor isn't supported by the software. Great. Other production apps like FL Studio also currently lack support on the Surface. So if your workflow involves any software that isn't supported, we advise you to stay clear of ARM systems for now. It also wouldn't surprise us if more compatibility issues surface during extended use. To be absolutely clear, the Surface Pro 11 is one of the best built Windows devices you can get your hands on at the moment. The design is elegant, hardware is improved over previous Surface generations, and the overall feeling of the device is excellent. It uses the tried and tested Surface design formula. And in fact, we could hardly find any visual differences between the Surface Pro 9 and the newer model, save for a few more color options. Coming in at 11 inches by 8 inches, the Surface is on the small side for a laptop, but on the bigger side for a tablet. And on the front, there is a screen with relatively thick bezels. The webcam and an IR scanner are on the center top of the front side, alongside a dual microphone setup. You can use the webcam and IR scanner to unlock the tablet using facial recognition. On the left side, we find two USB 4.0 Type-C ports, which can also be used for charging, as well as a dedicated Surface Connect port on the right side, which is meant for charging and docking. The Surface has very smooth edges and is generally pleasant to hold with the keyboard attached. Two speakers are visible on the front, each on the very edges of the display. The back features the classic Surface stand and a simple Microsoft logo. However, despite its simple design, Microsoft doesn't fail to communicate that the Pro 11 is a premium product. This entire back is coated with anodized aluminium and comes in either platinum, black, sapphire, or dune colorways. Underneath the kickstand, there is a removable metal plate that reveals the user-replaceable M.2 SSD. The webcam on the Surface Pro 11 is great. There is a pretty wide viewing angle with support for AI face tracking during video calls, and the pictures produced are clean, sharp, and have quite a natural color to them. Perhaps the biggest improvement over the Surface Pro 10 is the far superior battery life. Featuring a slightly larger 53 Wh battery over the previous 46.5 Wh one, and a far more efficient chipset, it comes to nobody's surprise that the Surface Pro 11 passes our battery test with flying colors. When continuously playing a 720p YouTube video at peak brightness, the Surface Pro 11 reaches an impressive 11.4 hours of runtime. This score devastates last year's Surface Pro 10 business, which only managed 4.75 hours in the same testing conditions. For reference, the Acer Swift 14 AI with a traditional Intel chip managed 12 hours in the same test, although it has a marginally larger battery as well. This shows that Microsoft's decision to push Snapdragon chips into the Surface 11 instead of the usual Intel ones have at least paid off in terms of power efficiency. The Pro 11 has a display befitting its price. At 13 inches, with a resolution of 2880 by 1920, and with a pixel density of 267 pixels per inch, this display is sure to bless your eyes with crystal clear fidelity. You can choose between either an OLED or LCD display option, depending on your budget. The display gets up to 120 Hz of dynamic refresh rate, ensuring that animations are fluid without wasting too much power. Our model has the OLED display variant, which does exactly what you would expect an OLED panel to do. Blacks are deep, whites are bright, and video content looks amazing. We noticed that the display has a slight yellow tint compared to other OLED displays, like the one on the Acer Swift 14 AI, but this comes from the inbuilt adaptive color setting, which can be switched off if you prefer a wider image. Overall display brightness leaves a bit to be desired. At a peak of 600 nits in standard dynamic range and 900 nits in high dynamic range, or HDR, the screen can appear a little dim when used under direct sunlight or otherwise bright environments, especially when compared to an iPad Pro, which has up to 1600 nits of peak brightness. Still, this is an excellent display by all means. While it might not look like much on the surface, the Surface Pro 11 has extremely impressive speakers. These speakers also have Dolby Atmos support and can even rival a MacBook Pro or iPad Pro in quality and volume. We noticed that the bass is especially audible in lower volumes, but seems to kind of taper off when cranking the volume beyond 60%, at which point the speakers become almost too loud anyways. Combined with the OLED display and a 3:2 aspect ratio, the Surface is perfect for viewing movies. Microsoft launched the Surface with big claims about exclusive software features. The key selling point, of course, was AI. New Windows devices were to launch with Copilot Plus, an AI assistant that includes a suite of useful AI features like live captions in videos, camera tracking, and a ChatGPT-based assistant. The headline feature was supposed to be called Windows Recall, but ironically it was recalled due to privacy concerns from users. So far, there really isn't much that can be said about these features. They can be useful occasionally, but we would not recommend buying this laptop purely for these AI features. This might be a controversial opinion, but in our testing, we found the Surface Slim Pen 2 to be a slight downgrade in ergonomics compared to the original Surface Pen. I mean, sure, wireless charging and haptic feedback are substantial improvements, but the more rectangular shape of the Slim Pen feels strange to use for us. The haptic feedback also hardly feels like natural writing on paper, which is what Microsoft wants us to believe it emulates. So overall, it's a pretty disappointing experience, and we would recommend sticking to the original Surface Pen, which you can still buy. Microsoft also launched a Surface Flex keyboard together with the Surface Pro 11. This keyboard is thicker, better, and also comes at a $400 premium. The keyboard feels much more high-end when typing, and there's also an included wireless charging pen dock for the Surface Slim Pen. The trackpad is slightly bigger and has some nice haptic feedback on clicks. But maybe the more interesting new feature is the integrated battery in the keyboard, which allows it to function while disconnected over Bluetooth for up to 41 hours. This feature can definitely be useful when you're limited on space, although we're not sure if that alone justifies a $300 markup over the standard keyboard cover. This keyboard is also backwards compatible with Surfaces released after the Surface Pro 8. Overall, we think that the Surface Pro 11 is a great tablet with one big weakness. Obviously, the incredible improvements in battery life alone makes this Surface stand out compared to the rest of the lineup. However, Microsoft's decision to pack a Snapdragon X Elite chip into this device also comes at a cost of compatibility and performance loss in emulation. Battery life is also not significantly better than laptops with current generation Intel chips or MacBooks, which perform better and can be found at a lower price. On one hand, the Surface Pro 11 has a great display, speakers, and comes with support for a good keyboard. This Windows tablet is great for office work, browsing, and media consumption. The drawing experience is as good as usual, and having support for all older Surface accessories is nice. For office users who want the high-end Windows tablet of this generation, the Surface Pro 11 might be just a pick. It can also be a great choice for photographers and other Photoshop users. On the other hand, $1,500 is way too high of a price tag for a device that lacks support for some professional work and many games. The Surface is great when it works and equally frustrating when it doesn't. So, if you want a premium office tablet, go for it. But if you're budget conscious and don't explicitly need a Windows device with pen support, you can also get a cheaper Windows laptop for work plus a mid-range Android tablet for entertainment.